Real estate pro Fred Glick, though, does not see that silver lining. Dan, great to have you on the program. Make the case.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So the idea here is pretty simple, right? We have a reality where there's millions of Americans who unfortunately are very severely delinquent or default on their loans. In this reality, we only have one choice, and they have to go through foreclosure. Now, there are other options that are not very good. One is mortgage modifications. We know that historically, these tend to redefault at very high rates, 50, 60%, so we're just prolonging the agony. The other option is for banks to sort of slowly release these over a decade or something, and that's just going to create a stagnant market for that period instead of allowing the market to clear so it can then again rise at and appreciate at its historical rate.
Well, I mean, Fred, you disagree, obviously. There is an obvious negative, though, of rising foreclosures.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the biggest problem is the people who are able to get mortgages have a harder time, because now you have this foreclosure that's on the books in a certain area, and an appraiser goes and says, wait a second, this house is only worth $150,000 when you're trying to buy it for $250,000. There are some solutions, though, and that's what we really have to look for. And one of them is that Fannie, Freddie, FHA, and VA have to take into consideration these foreclosures and completely remove them from new appraisals that they get. Let the investors come in and do a dollar deed if there's a foreclosure. And that way, it's not of record as to what the exact price was unless you go deep into the records. Those kind of things will help. But you know, you get into a market, people kind of get depressed when you see an area that starts getting worse and worse and worse. Less people are going to buy there, and those values are going to plummet because of it. Yeah. I understand Dan's point completely, and it's just a macro and a micro, you know, ideas, and we just got to come up with the ideas that make it work.
But Daniel, I mean, doesn't, you know, the confidence of homeowners get shaken with this kind of foreclosure activity if they want to sell their house?
Sure, but I guess my contention, right, is that if we have a sort of stagnant, unhealthy market for a longer period of time as these foreclosures kind of trickle out or redefaults happen, is that really better than sort of, you know, pulling the Band-Aid off quickly, having another, you know, 12, 24 months of prices declining kind of modestly, letting, you know, that inventory work itself out, and then you have a normal market again? I think that's preferable.
Could one argue that if the banks are comfortable moving forward with foreclosures, that they're feeling that the market is improving enough to you know, get rid of some of the inventory?
That's a really good point. And another thing to add to that, the banks, if they're going to go ahead with the foreclosures, let's go ahead with the short sales, and let's get the short sales done in 30 days instead of 6 months. And the banks will be whole. And that's another part of this problem. And the third part, the biggest part, is the HARP 2 program was fantastic. But Fannie, Freddie, and the banks have completely ruined it by, you know, lowering the loan to values to 105, being really picky about things. Do what the president said to do. No matter what the loan to value, loan the money to the people who qualify with good credit and income. They're going to stay in the properties. And if there's more foreclosures, there's going to be less of this problem because people are in their houses and going to make their neighborhoods nice.
What would your characterization of housing be right now?
On a micro basis, I mean, there's some areas, and I say this all the time, there's some areas that are fantastic, there's some areas that are absolutely terrible. And you just got to pick the location you want to be in and buy the right area. You got to go out and get a feeling. But there's some places that are just terrible. We've talked about on this show before where it might be that we got to knock down 1,000 houses and move people, but just the way it is, and it's tough to get a mortgage still. It's
tough to get a mortgage still. And Fred, how do you get a foreclosure? People want to know that.
Well, actually, it's pretty funny. I mean, they go on some websites and see these addresses and call me and say, I want to buy this house. It's a foreclosure, when in fact it really isn't. What happens is the banks go to the foreclosure sale, depending on the state. The banks buy it back. The banks then give it to a real estate agent to sell when it comes on the market. That's when you can buy it. There's no like secret list of bank-held assets like there used to be 40 years ago. It doesn't work that way anymore. But you know, you can go to the sheriff's sales, but usually what happens is the bank is owed so much money, you can't buy at the sheriff's sale.
Yep.
So,
all right. We'll leave it there. Gentlemen, thank you very much. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, Maria.
Appreciate your time tonight. Thanks so much. We'll take a break. Then what will move your money? First thing tomorrow morning, 3 of Wall Street's smartest strategists with me, telling us what they're watching out for and how they're playing it. Then it's the stuff of paperback novels. Our Scott Cohn up next with the latest on a financial scandal that's rocking Iowa. Be sure to join us on Closing Bell tomorrow. I'll have a one-on-one with former New York Attorney General Eliot Spitzer. I'll get